We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
You know, look, this building behind me opened 87 years ago, and for 49 of those years, as our other guests have been saying, the right to abortion has been enshrined in the Constitution. And now you have a conservative majority saying it's not there anymore, and the political and social reverberations of this decision will be immense. You see also that black fencing behind me that is keeping the public away from an area in front of the Supreme Court where they used to be able to go years ago. And that speaks to how divided and dangerous our politics has become. And there are a lot of law enforcement officers here, frankly, who are getting ready for any potential violence or disorder that could come from this. There are members of Congress. I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene walking past. In fact, I think she's right here now in a scrum of people. I think that's what you're seeing on your screen, with a big smile on her face, surrounded by a retinue. And I'm sure we're going to see more of that as the day unfolds. And we should remember that we're here because of politics. We're here because a conservative majority on this court was appointed by a Republican president. It started when the current Attorney General, Merrick Garland, who had been nominated by Barack Obama, was not given a hearing for 11 months and was not elevated to the court. And then President Trump got to pick 3 Supreme Court justices, including one who was voted on by the Senate even as the 2020 election was underway. And these are the people who joined in this decision written by Justice Alito that strikes down the right to abortion, says it doesn't exist in the Constitution.
Crap. All my hangers are padded. All my hangers are wooden or padded. I don't have any wire. Well, you know, listen, here's our job right now, okay? Our job right now is to not get pregnant and not get shot. Welcome to America, everybody. That's where we're at. That is where we're at. I mean, my child has less rights than I did. Yes, our girls have less rights than we did in this world. I mean, listen, there's a lot of emotion. There's disbelief, there's anger, there's frustration, there's dread, there's fear, there's all of that. But there needs to be wisdom. There needs to be knowledge. There needs to be an understanding of what you need to do now. The first thing, don't get pregnant. Second thing, don't get shot. Third thing, vote. And what do I mean by that? All right, so look, here is where we are, and it's not as dire as you might think it is. Although I will say, taking away states' rights, the Supreme Court took away New York's right to self-govern on the issue of guns. They struck down a 100-year-old law under the guise of tradition. What? They're just making it up. You understand that? They're making crap up as they go along. They come up with the result, and then they think their way backwards in order to make an argument to support the result that they were after. That is what is going on with the court. The court is illegitimate because the court is not, respecting precedent, stare decisis and all that. And also, you have at least 2 Supreme Court justices currently, maybe 3 if you include, well, maybe 4 if you include Alito and Clarence Thomas, and then add it to Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, who all lied under oath about, stare decisis and Roe v. Wade being settled law during their confirmations. Now, I will say, Amy Grinnan Barrett, she was like a little more circumspect about it. She actually said, well, it's not super precedent. Doesn't mean that I would overturn it. So, she got a little wiggle room there. But we're all Catholic now. So basically what we've lost is freedom of religion, especially if your religion is no religion. You're not free anymore to not have religion foisted upon your life and your life's decisions. You're not free anymore. Religion is going to be ever present in your days as an American going forward. Okay, so you're not free from religion. And certainly if you practice a religion that believes that the life of a mother comes first, like, I don't know, what religion? Judaism. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, if you subscribe to a religion that believes that the life of a woman is more precious and needs to be protected at a greater level, because that's what it says in the Bible. Just saying. But if you're not free to practice your religion either in many states. Why? Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Utah, and Idaho all have trigger laws, meaning their laws have now been triggered by the fact that the Supreme Court found a result they wanted and worked their way backwards, and then for the very first time in American history, took away a right. Took away a right that was constitutionally interpreted by no less than 3 separate Supreme Court cases. And now they're going after, make no mistake about it, they're going after contraception. There were 2 opinions. I don't know if you know this or not. So let me just brief you real quick. This is easy. So there were 2 opinions today having to do with Roe. The first one had to do with the Mississippi case, the Dobbs case, which I told you, look, I said before the election, 2 things were going to happen. We were going to have hearings on the lawlessness and the lying and the cheating and the manipulation of government agencies like the Department of Justice, like the state legislatures, like the state governors, like state secretaries of state, all the way up to 147 congressmen in the federal, House of Representatives, all the way up and through now, we found out yesterday, through the Department of Justice in order to get the result that Donald Trump wanted, which was to overthrow the results of a free and fair election, right? So I said, we're going to have hearings first, and then we're also going to have to live through the decision that the Supreme Court was going to make on the Dobbs case, which was leaked in May, so we knew, and even though we knew, it's still shocking. It's still despairing. It's still frustrating, and it's still enraging. It's still making people livid, even though we knew it was coming. Okay. And now there's going to be an election in just, 3.5 months, not even. Some people vote early. And those 2 things have now happened. Like the hearings aren't done. But we got enough information now to understand the corruption that was happening at the highest levels of our government. The abject lying, the corruption, the deviousness, the ending of the American way of life was totally, totally within reach. Because you had a thug as president of the United States. And that thug was able to put 3 Supreme Court justices on the Supreme Court, and Mitch McConnell got the pick. Mitch McConnell did this. There's no question. Mitch McConnell was the one that held Merrick Garland's seat open for 11 months and yet had Amy Grinnan Barrett confirmed while the election was happening, while it was going on. So you understand how devious they are. You understand what happened here. I know you do. But there were 2 decisions today. One was on the Dobbs case. The Dobbs case wanted to change the number of weeks that a woman had to make her decision about whether or not she wanted to go forward with a pregnancy that either she wasn't financially ready for, or that she had she became pregnant through a one-night stand, or she was raped, or she was sexually assaulted, or it was her daddy's, or it was her uncle's. Okay, there's lots of situations. So they moved up the timeline. That's what the Dobbs case was. That was 6-3. On top of it, they went even further and decided another question, and that one came out 5-4 with John Roberts, the Chief Justice, dissenting. But the 5-4 decision was the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. So they went even further than they had to while they had the chance. Okay, so what do we do? Well, there's another co-equal branch of government. The Supreme Court is not everything. Supreme Court is 1/3 of our government. Presidency is 1/3 of our government, and the legislature is 1/3 of our government. And if we can get the legislature to pass a law saying women have the right to choose, we're good.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
How can you be, or are you 100% certain, without a doubt, that Brett Kavanaugh will not overturn Roe v. Wade?
I do not believe that Brett Kavanaugh will overturn.
Precedents
Roe
are
v.
overturned
Wade.
all the time.
They aren't overturned all the time.
More than...
And listen to the standards that he put forth in his conversation with me, and also in the hearing. He says for a precedent, a long-established precedent like Roe to be overturned, it would have to have been grievously wrong and deeply inconsistent. He noted that Roe had been reaffirmed 19 years later by Planned Parenthood versus Casey, and that it was precedent on precedent. He said it should be extremely rare that it be overturned, and it should be an example.
So you have obviously full confidence.
I do.
You will lie too. And you fell for it, Sue. You fell for it, honey. So the right thing to do would be to have him impeached for lying to you under oath. Susan Collins put out a statement today saying that he lied to her under oath, that she's shocked and appalled that he lied to her under oath. He lied to her under oath. Gorsuch lied during his confirmation hearings. Alito, go back to Alito's confirmation hearing. He said the same thing. Oh, no, it's precedent. And Gorsuch, he wrote a whole book about precedent. He wrote a whole book saying stare decisis is, the most important principle for a court to, observe, that meaning that once something is, an accepted constitutionally given right, like the right to privacy, which is how Roe was decided. But what did they do? They literally quoted Susan Collins, literally quoted her and said Roe was grievously decided, that it was decided by mistake 50 years ago, and they overturned it, and they overturned Casey too, which reaffirmed the precedent on precedent. They destroyed 2 precedential cases in order to get to the result that they wanted. Also this week, just so you know, we lost states' rights. So for all you Republican conservative types that believe in states' rights, that's gone too. And we know that because New York had a law for 100 years. The law that was overturned this week, you know what the date on the passage of that law is? 1913. 1913. And they said New York does not have a right, okay, to decide who gets a concealed carry weapon. They don't. They have no discretion. That's the word they use, no discretion. So they took away states' rights if they don't like your state, if they don't like the laws of your state. So now equal protection is next, okay, because Clarence said in his concurring opinion, he felt the need to step out and concur on his own. Alito wrote this crazy opinion. But Clarence wrote a concurrence, and in it he said, now it's time to go after other rights. And he said he wanted to go after Griswold, which is contraception. He wants to go after Lawrence. Lawrence is intimate relations between people. It's sexual positions and sexual acts, okay? Lawrence said that people were free in this country to do whatever they wanted to each other, as long as no one was getting hurt. He wants to take a look at that. He's not down with certain of the ways that you get off, okay? Just to be real blunt about it. And then he said he wanted to look at Griswold, he wanted to look at Lawrence, and he wants to look at Obergefell, which is gay marriage. Those cases, some of them were decided on privacy rights. Others, like Obergefell, was decided on equal protection, meaning if marriage was a contract that was offered to, opposite sex people, then marriage as a contract had to be offered to same-sex people under the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution. So this week we've been threatened with taking away equal protection. We've been decimated of states' rights, and we lost our right to privacy. Half the country lost their right to privacy. Now, the way that it was nobody had to have an abortion. It was your body, your choice. If you wanted to, be pregnant and have a baby, you were free to do so. If you didn't want to be pregnant and not have a baby, you were free to do so. But that's not the way it is anymore. Now it's my body, your choice. What could go wrong there? And really noteworthy, this is the first time rights have ever been taken away. And we lost a whole bunch of them. Not just the right to privacy, not just equal protection, but we lost states' rights. And conservatives are fine with it because they don't even understand what has happened. They don't even know what has happened. They have no idea what they're rooting for is autocracy. They have no idea that what they're rooting for is a very slender, specific, right-wing strain of Catholicism called dominionism to be the national faith that everyone in this country is forced to live under. And that it has a preference. It has a preference for not Christian, but for white, dominionist men. And everyone else is otherized in their worldview of America. Everyone else is otherized. Everyone. They are literally taking away rights right now in real time. You can see it. You can hear it. You can see people who are paying attention be, just beside themselves. The first call I got today was Jessica. And I will tell you, my girl has less rights than I do. And it kills me. It kills me to know that that's true for her. What abject failures we have been for our children. And all of us have to own that. We all have to know that our children currently have less safety, less protection under law, less rights than we did. And, she would love to have a baby. I mean, it's like her greatest hope and dream is to have a child. It's what she wants for herself. She would never, ever, ever, never, ever consider an abortion. It's just not anything for her. But she was hysterical, crying, and livid that not everybody was free anymore. And it's our fault. It's our fault, people. For those of you who didn't vote in 2016 because you didn't think it mattered, wake up. I will tell you how easy this is to fix because it isn't really that hard. We do have elections coming up, and all we have to do, and it's really pretty basic, this is not a deep dive into politics or governance, keep the House and add 2 Democratic senators. Why 2? Because we have 2 Democratic senators who won't get rid of the filibuster, Sinema and Manchin. They are responsible for the situation that we find ourselves in. If we could add 2 Democratic senators, we could get rid of the filibuster. And then we would be able to codify, as they say, into law, the right to choose for half this country.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Today, the Supreme Court of the United States expressly took away a constitutional right from the American people that it had already recognized. They didn't limit it, they simply took it away. That's never been done to a right so important to so many Americans. But they did it. It's a sad day for the court and for the country. 50 years ago, Roe v. Wade was decided and has been the law of the land since then. This landmark case protected a woman's right to choose, her right to make intensely personal decisions with her doctor, free from the interference of politics. It reaffirmed basic principles of equality, that women have the power to control their own destiny, and it reinforced a fundamental right of privacy, a right of each of us to choose how to live our lives. Now, with Roe gone, let's be very clear. The health and life of women in this nation are now at risk.
So you have to vote like your rights depend on it, because guess what? They do. They do. They're being taken away from you and being replaced with autocrats, with people who have a result, a desired result, and will work their way backwards or make crap up and put it on paper. I mean, the intellectual dishonesty of this court is so apparent when you consider that yesterday they took away states' rights because they don't like New York's 100-year-old law. They totally ran over the stare decisis, the it must stand, and law, previously decided law stands, and today they took away the right to privacy. I mean, it's just you have to wake up, because this is really happening. This is like Rosemary's Baby. It is. This is really happening. You're being screwed by the devil. It really is. It's on, everybody. It's on. Game time. Game time. Sharon in Michigan.
Hi.
Hey.
You're the first one I have heard even mention about the lying. I'm going to use the word lying at their confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
And I am really shocked, and I would think that would be enough to remove every one of them who have lied at their confirmation from the court and negate their decision. And one other thing is Thomas being married to a Caucasian woman, and he's talking about taking away privacy rights. And that's really all I know and what I've been thinking since this started. But if you would talk about that, I'd really appreciate it.
Well, marriage, didn't get decided under privacy. Marriage got decided under equal protection. And if they go down that road of, destroying equal protection under law, meaning he goes after gay marriage, then Loving, which is the decision that said that that decision is in question too.
Correct.
So there's that. But beyond that, and for those of you who don't think he's going to go after contraception, or that this court isn't going to go, you just remember, you didn't think Roe v. Wade would be overturned either. Okay?
Correct.
So just hold that thought. As far as removing people who lied under oath, who are now currently sitting on the Supreme Court, okay, that again ends up being a question of who controls the legislative branch, right? Because the House impeaches.
Oh, yes. And I know my mind was blown when I started thinking about 2/3.
Yes, and the Senate removes. So you need 2/3. You need 67 senators to remove. That's not going to happen. But I will tell you what could happen if we actually show up and make our voices heard and say 80% of America wants Roe v. Wade to still be Roe v. Wade. 80%. And you got Okay, and you got 6 people that just took it away. Against 80% of the American people's will, right? Okay, you did that. So if everybody shows up to vote, I'm not saying we'll get anywhere near 67 senators, but what we could do is expand the court. What we could do is take away lifetime tenure. What we could do is legislate ourselves into a position where the Supreme Court makes sense to us again.
I liked what you said about getting 2 more senators.
So that would be to pass a piece of legislation that would make Roe v. Wade the law.
Correct.
Right, but that's not to remove. To remove you need 67. And there's no way we can get to 67. We only have 15 Republican senators up for re-election this particular time. So even if we defeated all 15, which is just ridiculous, there's no way that you're going to get rid of John Boozman in Arkansas, even though he's...
I looked it up this morning on the internet.
I know, even though he's 71 years old. Or Chuck Grassley in Iowa, he's 88 years old.
And running again.
Yes, till he's 96. He's asking to be made the senator from Iowa till he's 96 years old. Okay, but there's no way that we could get to 67. We could, if we defeated every Republican on the ballot, we could get up to 65. That's
Well, Manchin and Sinema can be replaced or added to.
Yeah, but they're not up for re-election, so you're not following. But you know what I'm saying? Don't make this too complicated. This is why I want to make this nice and plain and simple. All we need to do is keep the House and add 2 senators. Now, where would we get 2 senators? Where could we find 2 Democrats to replace 2 Republicans? Well, that's not really hard to do. Ohio, Rob Portman is retiring. Bye-bye, Rob. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. And Tim Ryan, a Democrat, could replace him. Now, Tim Ryan's been a House member for since 10 years, since 2013. Tim Ryan is popular in Ohio. Tim Ryan could replace a Republican Senator, Rob Portman. So that's +1. Where would we find the other one? Pennsylvania. Pat Toomey is retiring, and John Fetterman, who everybody seems to really like, could replace Pat Toomey. So that would be a Republican replaced by a Democrat. That would give us the 2 more Democratic senators that we need to overturn the filibuster, to get rid of the filibuster rule for legislation. Okay? And Sinema and Manchin wouldn't be president of the United States anymore, because Sinema and Manchin are deciding what gets passed by this Democratic president, what gets signed by this Democratic president. They sit there and they decide that they're not for this or they're not for that. They vote no, and we have a 50-50 Senate, and we can't get rid of the filibuster in order to do things, that we want to do, like increase the age to own a weapon of war to 21, which would have stopped the Buffalo shooter, which would have stopped the Uvalde killer. Can't even get that done. But if you gave me 2 senators and we could get rid of the filibuster, we could have passed Build Back Better. We could get, for those of you who love the fetus, try loving the child. Try doing some child care and Build Back Better. Try doing some elder care. You see what I mean? We can make progress in the last 2 years of this administration if in 2022 we keep the House and add 2 Democratic senators who are positioned perfectly to replace 2 Republicans in Ohio and in Pennsylvania. We could do it. It could be done.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
With this decision, the conservative majority of the Supreme Court shows how extreme it is, how far removed they are from the majority of this country. They've made the United States an outlier among developed nations in the world. But this decision must not be the final word. My administration will use all of its appropriate lawful powers, but Congress must act. And with your vote, you can act. You can have the final word. This is not over.
It's not nearly over. It's just beginning. They undid what we relied on for 50 years as being a constitutionally guaranteed right to privacy on our own person, okay? Our own person, papers, and things. And they took that right away. Just as yesterday, they took away New York State's rights to ban concealed carry in the subway or in a museum or any other place that New York has had for 100 years. It's state law banning people being able to conceal carry. I mean, it's just so it's so opposite world. I mean, they made crap up to take away states' rights, and they made crap up to take away privacy rights, but they signaled to us that they're coming for contraception. They're coming for gay marriage, which would be equal protection rights, being yanked away from you. Everyone who relies on equal protection under the law as being a constitutional right, a principle, a guiding light in our lives, that is so close to being over. It's so close. I will tell you, there was another, there were a bunch of decisions, but there was another one that was kind of interesting on Miranda rights. You know, Miranda is, you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. If you want an attorney, you don't have to say anything. So the Supreme Court split the baby on this. They said that if a police officer doesn't read you your Miranda rights, you can't sue for anything that happens thereafter. You can't sue. They took that right away from you, too. So that's a civil right that's gone. I'm telling you, they are destroying American autonomy. They're destroying individuals' rights. They're destroying individualism. They're destroying freedom of religion, freedom from religion, equal protection under law, states' rights. All those conservative ideas, they're now out the window. They've just left the building. Gone in the blink of an eye. 100 years of law removed. New York City is just freaking out. I listen, I'm a New Yorker. You know that. I live in Florida where I'm going to, the right to, privacy, the right to have an abortion is going to go. I'll show you. Let me show you this. Wait, here. Yeah, here's my map. Thank you. So these states in red, these ones here, these are the ones that have trigger laws, meaning that if the Supreme Court bans abortion, which it just did, that triggers a ban on abortion statewide in these states. So you can see Idaho, Wyoming, Utah. Good luck to you. You can't even go over to South Dakota or North Dakota. Maybe you can go to Montana. I don't know. But look at the whole southern portion of the country here in red. Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky. I don't want to say you're screwed because you could get pregnant from that kind of an activity. And the other word, I'm prohibited from saying there's no freedom of speech. Okay, you understand. But then you see these states in yellow. Okay, they will likely enforce their pre-Roe bans. They have laws on the books that are pre-Roe written, and they could, just put those into place very easily because they're already laws on the books, and they could enact them. So now you have Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, and Iowa. Chuck Grassley territory. An 88-year-old geezer is asking you in Iowa to give him the awesome responsibility of being your senator because, of course, an 88 to 96-year-old can, totally advocate for your interests in Iowa. I mean, why wouldn't he be able to do such a thing? You got the nads to come at me with Joe Biden is old. Joe Biden is old. But he's 88, Chuck Grassley. 88. Biden is 79. He's 10 years younger than Chuck Grassley. And you tell me Biden is too old to be president. It's just... it just depends on, where you sit. That's where you stand. Meanwhile, we're all in danger. Every last one of us is in harm's way here. Like I said, our only goal for the next, few months until this election is to not get shot and not get pregnant. Glenda in Oregon.
Hi.
Hey.
First time caller.
Oh, hey. I gotta have to stop doing that.
Anyway, I'm calling because I'm trying to figure out just exactly what this is getting them, because in the states that they're, especially in the South, they're talking about people who they don't want to have black and brown people voting, and yet they're producing more black and brown babies. And I grew up in Hawaii. I was in a multicultural, community. And it's like, if you're doing this, you're shooting yourself in your own foot.
So you're concluding that this will cause a birth rate among black and brown women to
more so than white.
More so than white. Well, I don't know that the numbers will bear you out. There's only 11% of the population that is black. So even if, I think they've been peeved and upset that white men's penises don't work, and that we've not made enough white babies, and they're hoping that this will create new white babies for them to lord over. They certainly don't want to take care of any babies. They don't want to take care of brown babies. They don't want to take care of black babies. They don't want to give parents, maternity leave or paternity leave to take care of the babies. They don't want to give you health care. They don't want to, feed babies. They don't want. You even have some legislators standing up now saying that they are against school lunches for lesbian and gay children.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, right. But it's who they are. They just believe that, if we're so busy fighting for basic rights to live, we won't have time to notice that they are, literally stealing every nickel, every dime that they can from the Social Security Trust Fund, from the Medicare Trust Fund, from, all these tranches of money. So one of the things we had to do in order to get this terribly weak, pathetic attempt at gun laws, at some restrictions on who can get a semi-automatic weapon when they turn 18. One of the things we had to do was give states that have no intention, none, of enforcing or mandating red flag laws be enforced. We had to give them money. That was a sticking point, was that not every state that was going to get money for red flag laws was willing to enforce red flag laws. And they said, well, that's not fair because we have no intention of enforcing a red flag law, but you're giving my next door neighbor state, you're giving them federal dollars. I want federal dollars too, or my senator isn't going to vote for this. I swear to God, we had to pay them to do nothing. That's how pathetic a party they are. That's how autocratic they are. It's like at a Goodfellas. Now Paulie runs your store. So the rent is due. F you, pay me. Oh, you had a fire? F you, pay me. Oh, you had a flood? F you, pay me. That's what they're doing to you. It's mob rule, man. It's minority rule. This is so un-American. It is so undemocratic. It is so out there in the fringe of ideology. I mean, this isn't even mainstream anything. This isn't mainstream Christianity. This isn't mainstream, Episcopalian. This isn't mainstream Catholicism. This isn't mainstream, Judaism or mainstream, Zoroastrian. It's not mainstream anything. This is so radical. This is such a lunatic way to run a country.
Mary had a little man. The fall.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
I rise today in anticipation of the Supreme Court's decision likely coming down today or tomorrow, which will decide the future of Roe versus Wade. The Supreme Court decision may punt Michigan backwards to 1931 and our long dormant law, which makes providing an abortion a felony that will send doctors, women, and girls to jail for 4 years, with no exception for age, rape, or incest. And while a Michigan Court of Claims judge recently ruled to bar the enforcement of the 1931 law should Roe be overturned, rightly citing the, quote, serious danger of irreparable harm if prevented from accessing abortion services. The Republican majority in this Senate, Mr. President, has filed a motion to intervene in this suit to force the 1931 law and its enforcement to go back into effect. And they are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer funds to force a law to take effect that will return Michigan to an archaic time when the lives of women and girls did not matter. They're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer funds to, in effect, force doctors and medical providers out of the state, sentencing them to jail, and to sentence women, girls, families, and anyone needing to access this medical care to death. The argument? that what's written in statute should be for the legislature to decide, that any changes in statute should be done here. One of our Republican counterparts in the House told Politico, quote, "None of us are thinking that we're going to let this 1931 law go back into effect and that people are going to start getting arrested. Instead, we are fully prepared to have those difficult conversations with our colleagues," end quote. And yet, this Senate has for years refused to take up Senator Geis's bill to repeal this horrific 1931 law and refused to take up our bills to pass the Reproductive Health Act into law. Not even a debate. There are no conversations. There have never been. And here we are with the 1931 law, all we will have left if and when Roe falls.
So that's Michigan. You remember Mallory McMorrow? She's a rising star. You watch. You watch her. Watch that space. She's amazing. Telling Michiganders, telling you that you have a Republican legislature that is willing to put back into place once Roe v. Wade is, destroyed, which it was today. She said this this morning. And the decision had not come out yet, either yesterday or this morning. And she was trying to let you know in Michigan that you have a Republican legislature there that is so ready and willing to put back into place a 1931 law that does not take into account the life or the well-being of a mother, a woman, at all. And that they were willing to let that go back into law so that women could be criminally charged and prosecuted for seeking abortion services, regardless of rape or incest or any, and those states that I just showed you, those 13 states, they don't have exceptions at all for rape or incest or any of or even the health of the mother. They don't care. And this judicial activism on steroids that we're watching unfold before our very eyes by a bunch of people who literally broke the law themselves when they lied under oath to the Senate during their confirmation hearings. And it's not just Gorsuch and it's not just Kavanaugh. It's also Alito, who also Oliver Roberts, they all said Roe v. Wade is stare decisis, it's precedent on precedent, and you can't undo it, and it's settled law, and blah, blah, blah. And yet they're doing it. They're literally doing it. And they lied, and they knew they were lying when they said that, when they testified that way to the Senate under oath. And the only way to remove them is with 67 votes in the Senate, and we don't have a chance of doing that. But they want everyone in the United States armed and packing. So you want to pack something? Let's pack the court. That's what I want to pack. They want everyone in New York City armed. Madison Square Garden, Times Square, where people go New Year's Eve to get like twisted wasted. And it's full of tourists and it's just jam-packed all day. They're saying, based on tradition, that law about concealed carry has been the law in New York State for 100 years, since 1913. So what tradition are they talking about? I guess they're talking about their version of something so disgusting it actually has a name called originalism. That means that the Supreme Court feels like they've been imbued with the spirit of the Founding Fathers to the point where they can clearly state that they know what Madison and Jefferson were thinking about AR-15s in Manhattan in the 1700s. That's what originalism is. The other thing you have to realize with this judicial activism on steroids is that when the Constitution was written, women weren't in it. Women weren't mentioned. Black people weren't in it. They weren't mentioned. We had to amend the Constitution to free black people in the 13th Amendment, okay? And then I will tell you, during Reconstruction, the Reconstruction era, there were plenty of gun laws. Plenty of them. In fact, Texas, I think, was one of the first states to have gun laws. The Wild West wasn't so wild, you know. There were plenty of gun laws. There were local gun laws. There were gun laws about certain towns, and certain sheriffs didn't want guns in their towns. You know why? Whiskey. Whiskey and guns, they don't mix. You see what I mean? But this is all trash. This is garbage. This is real judicial activism. This is something every conservative said they were against. This is something that every American should agree upon. Conservative Americans, Democratic Americans, progressives, liberals, religious, right-wing. I don't care what camp you think you're in. We are all against judicial activism, especially this kind on steroids, taking away rights in the blink of an eye, based on a traditional reading that we know what Madison intended when he wrote the Second Amendment and was talking about muskets and well-regulated militias, which, by the way, are the National Guard now. Oh, this is very scary. This is really, really a road I don't think we've ever gone. Oh, and you know how far Clarence Thomas went? Clarence Thomas, I don't know if you know who Judge Taney is. Judge Taney was a real racist psycho. He's the author of the Dred Scott decision. We should call this Roe v. Wade a denunciation, this obliteration of 50% of Americans' rights. We should call this Dred Scott 2.0. But Clarence literally wanted to trigger the libs. This is what he's using the court for, you understand. It's all to trigger the libs. It has nothing to do with jurisprudence. It has nothing to do with stare decisis. It has nothing to do with a modest interpretation of constitutional law or, you know, advancing the rights of Americans or expanding rights of Americans. Or no, it has every single thing to do with autocracy, right? And so he actually went in his decision, this man, and quoted Judge Taney as if he was some brilliant jurist upon whose opinion we should rely. And he just put it in there. I saw Eric Erickson, formerly of Red State, say, "Oh, I'm so glad Clarence Thomas went there." Literally quoting the most racist decision, the worst decision in the history of these United States, Dred Scott. Clarence did it.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
This is a sad day for the country, in my view. But it doesn't mean the fight's over. Let me be very clear and unambiguous. The only way we can secure a woman's right to choose and the balance that existed is for Congress to restore the protections of Roe v. Wade as federal law. No executive action from the president can do that. And if Congress, as it appears, lacks the votes to do that now, voters need to make their voices heard. This fall, we must elect more senators and representatives who will codify women's right to choose into federal law once again. Elect more state leaders to protect this right at the local level. We need to restore the protections of Roe as law of the land. We need to elect officials who will do that. This fall, Roe is on the ballot. Personal freedoms are on the ballot.
You're damn right.
The right to privacy,
right.
Liberty, equality, they're all on the ballot.
They are. Every one of those things that we have become very lackadaisical about, that we've taken for granted, which is never a good thing. It's now all up for grabs. And 2022 is going to set the stage for 2024. I mean, the right to vote. The right to vote. That's the next one, okay? The states' rights are already in play. Already in play. If they don't like your state's law, they will say it violates the Constitution. Everybody has a right to carry a gun outside the home. When the Second Amendment only says a well-regulated militia being necessary for the preservation of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. They literally undid 100 years of law, wiping out New York State's right to legislate where a person can carry a gun outside the home. Religious freedom, again, it's for some people to be free to tell you what their interpretation of the life of a Middle Eastern man means to them and what it means for them to tell you what to do. The Bible is not an American document. The Bible is a Middle Eastern document. Equal protection, that's up for grabs too when you talk about same-sex marriage. That is it's in, I mean, Clarence Thomas signaled it. He wrote it down. It was in the opinion today that the next things he wants to get rid of without due process, he says, is contraception, certain sexual activities, and gay marriage. He says it. He writes it down. It's all on the ballot. And, you know, like I said, it's going to matter whether your legislature believes in the right to vote as the manner in which you choose your electors in 2024. If you elect a legislature in, let's say, Michigan, you get rid of your Democratic governor, right, who can veto crazy crap like this. But they decide in a Republican legislature in Michigan that the manner in which Michiganders select the electors is no longer through the ballot box. It's no longer a vote, but instead it's going to be, we poll 4 people and, best 3 out of 4, whatever the 3 out of the 4 want. That's how we'll do it. That is totally possible. That is totally possible because all the Constitution says about a presidential election, a federal election, is that each state chooses the manner in which the electors are selected. And if your state decides that the manner is no longer a free and fair election, an open election, it's no longer at the ballot box, it's some other way, then that's what's going to be in 2024. And you realize now elections have consequences, albeit sometimes you don't even know them until 2 years after, like now. So privacy rights, states' rights, equal protection, religious freedom, voting rights, all of this is on the ballot. All of it. Now, we'll tell you, I'm pretty sure Pennsylvania could flip a seat and John Fetterman could become a Democrat in place of Pat Toomey, the Republican senator currently, because he's retiring. Pat Toomey, Rob Portman is also retiring in Ohio, and Tim Ryan could, flip that seat. So that would give us 2 more Democrats in the Senate, and then we could get rid of the filibuster, and we could codify all kinds of things into federal law. So there's no question about a right to vote. There's no question about equal protection. There's no question about privacy rights. There's no question about gun rights. There's no question about states' rights. That could all happen, but not with Manchin and not with Sinema unwilling to undo the filibuster rule. We would have to win 10 Republican, we would have to flip 10 Republican seats to get to 60 votes. And that's not going to happen. The only other seat I could see flipping, the only other possibility, because only 34 Senate seats are up, right? You do a third of the Senate every 2 years, right? The Senate doesn't all run at the same time. So you have 100 senators total, but you only have 34, 33 running in any midterm election. And this one has 34. And I've made the list, and while a lot of them, like Mike Crapo from Idaho, are 70 years old, they don't have a primary challenger. They're going to just cruise on into another term. But Wisconsin is interesting in that Ron Johnson, who's been fingered as being a guy who transmitted fake electors or tried to transmit fake electors to Mike Pence on January 6th while the insurrection was being organized and, executed. And only because Mike Pence's chief of staff told Johnson's chief of staff, don't give him that. Don't give him a list of fake electors. No, we don't want that. But Ron Johnson is being primaried. And, we got 2 Democrats that are running against Ron Johnson. There'll be a primary in August in Wisconsin. Whoever comes out on top of the Democratic side will run against Ron Johnson. And we got a chance to get rid of him, too. So that would be 3 seats, and that would be good. Just so you understand the lay of the land and what we need to achieve in order to restore sanity to an extreme, radicalized group of people in the judicial branch. And you saw what happened at DOJ. You saw it, right? So these guys that testified yesterday, yeah, good for you. I'm glad that you respond to subpoenas where some Republicans just don't. But where were they ahead of January 6th? Why weren't they screaming from the mountaintops? I'll tell you why. They got exactly what they wanted from Donald Trump. Exactly what they wanted. A radical Supreme Court. This is why Bill Barr wrote an op-ed that appealed to Donald Trump so he could get himself an interview and become the AG for the Supreme Court. All for this.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
The Republicans are plotting a nationwide abortion ban. They cannot be allowed to have a majority in the Congress to do that. But that's their goal. And if you read, and again, we're all studying all this, but if you read what is in the very clear, one of the justices had his own statement. It's about contraception, in vitro fertilization, family planning. That is all what will spring from their decision that they made today. It's such a contradiction. Yesterday, they say the states cannot make laws governing the constitutional right to bear arms. And today, they're saying the exact reverse, that the states can overturn a constitutional right for 50 years, a constitutional right for a woman having the right to choose. The hypocrisy is raging, but the harm is endless. What this means to women is such an insult. It's a slap in the face to women about using their own judgment to make their own decisions about their reproductive freedom. And again, it goes well. I always have said the termination of a pregnancy is just their opening act. It's just their front game. But behind it, and for years I have seen in this Congress opposition to any family planning, domestic or global, when we have had those discussions and those debates and those votes on the floor of the House. This is deadly serious.
It is deadly serious. I mean, women, will die. There's no question. Abortion isn't going to go away. The safety of abortion will go away. Contraception, if that goes away, then what happens with, and if you start to say, look, this is what they said. They said that life begins at fertilization. And if that's the case, then there's no such thing as in vitro fertilization. So people who are trying to start families with IVF will no longer be able to try having their own family with in vitro fertilization, because that includes destroying some eggs, some fertilized eggs. Women are, given fertilized eggs, lots of them sometimes, with the hope that that fertilized egg will land comfortably in her uterus and grow after 9 months into their very own child. That will become illegal in this country, too. We are an outlier here. Of all the democratic countries, this is an outlier's position. This has nothing to do with modern science or modern, women being, represented. They weren't represented in the originalist version of the Constitution. Women were literally chattel, as were black people. And now they want to try and legislate in states. They want to try and legislate and make illegal the ability for women to leave the state, to travel out of the state to a state that might be still providing a medical procedure that their state won't provide. And they want to ban women from being able to travel now. What are we're gonna have like an underground railroad? Harriet Tubman lives? I mean, what is this? I'll tell you what it is. It's control. This is all about autocracy. This is all a radical view of who gets to be in charge of everybody. And they have selected who they want to be in charge of everybody, and it's themselves. They don't want power sharing between them and the people. They don't want, certain states to be able to, say, look, for the safety of our cities, because we have, a very compact and dense population, because we understand that, being underground in a subway situation, it's not good to have weapons there, just like it's not good to have weapons in airplanes. They're going to say you can't legislate that anymore because we've decided that there is a constitutional right to have weapons outside of the home. Now, I will tell you that the previous decision by Scalia, the Heller decision, which I've talked to you about a lot, that decision said that you had a right to own a gun, a certain gun, not all guns, not every gun, just a commonly, traditionally recognized weapon of self-defense, like a pistol or a rifle, that you could have that in your home for protection of your home and hearth. That's all. That's what Heller, and they turned Heller into, you could have an AK, you could have an AR, and 18-year-olds can buy them, and they could, and now they've turned it into, hey, states can decide if you can carry those, all over the place. If you can carry those at church, if you can carry those at, museums, if you can carry those in school, states could decide. And now New York says, well, we've had a law for 100 years that says, no, you can't even carry a handgun outside the home. It's not a recognized constitutional right, hasn't been for centuries. And so, no, we're not going to allow it. And that has been the law in New York for 100 years. Supreme Court said, no, we're going to expand our interpretation of the Constitution, the constitutional right to keep and bear arms, by leaving out the whole first part of that amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the preservation of a free state, for the preservation of your state from federal incursion. And we're going to be the federal incursion, and we'll do it through the law. And we'll strip your state of its rights. On the other hand, we don't think women are entitled to a right to privacy. But the states can decide that one. The hypocrisy here is it'll choke you out because it's nonsensical. It makes no sense at all. But they're coming for us. And I hope you know that. I hope everybody feels it. No matter what your politics are, no matter what your policy preferences are, no matter what side of the aisle you sit on, no matter whether you would wear a red cap or a blue, it doesn't matter. They're coming for all of us. And they know that they can precisely because we are divided by red caps and blue caps. And the time is ripe. This is what they call ripeness. Strike now. take away rights right now. We have the legislature, we have the courts, we'll have the presidency in 2024, especially if 2022 goes our way. There won't even be ballots in 2024 in some places. I mean, this is crazy. This is really nuts.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
We turn to yet another element of the president's effort to overturn the 2020 election, this one involving the Department of Justice. A key focus of our hearing today will be a draft letter that our witnesses here today refused to sign. This letter was written by Mr. Jeff Clark with another Department of Justice lawyer, Ken Klukowski.
Who is he?
And the letter was to be sent to the leadership of the Georgia State Legislature. Other versions of the letter were intended for other states. Neither Mr. Clark nor Mr. Klukowski had any evidence of widespread election fraud, but they were quite aware of what Mr. Trump wanted the department to do. Jeff Clark met privately with President Trump and others in the White House and agreed to assist the president without telling the senior leadership of the department who oversaw him. As you will see, this letter claims that the U.S. Department of Justice's investigations have, quote, identified significant concerns that may have impacted the outcome of the election in multiple states, including the state of Georgia. In fact, Donald Trump knew this was a lie. The Department of Justice had already informed the President of the United States repeatedly that its investigations had found no fraud sufficient to overturn the results of the 2020 election. The letter also said this, quote, in light of these developments, the department recommends that the Georgia General Assembly should convene in special session, end quote, and consider approving a new slate of electors. And it indicates that a separate, quote, fake slate of electors supporting Donald Trump has already been transmitted to Washington, D.C.
There is nothing they won't do. Nothing they won't do. And it's all for power. It's all so that they can, rule over you. Rule over you. Impose their will on you. Take things away from you, steal from you, create chaos. And like I said, in chaos, they can steal. And they're stealing right now. They tried to steal an election. They tried to steal the White House. Now they're stealing basic, settled rights from you, taking them away from you because they feel that they can. That we're such a house divided that we can't stand. We can't stand together against the removal of our inalienable rights. And if they were given by the Creator or your Creator, then you also have free will. Let's not forget that portion. Brother David.
It's fight or flight for real, sister.
Yeah, it is. We're getting there.
We got 4 months. And we will know if it is flight time, depending on what happens in November.
Yep, that's definitely where I'm at.
It's kind of basically that simple. And this is why I always say to the chat room and the Facebook, hi all, tell 10 people to either listen to you or go to the website, register to vote. But at least 80 million people never vote. Those 80 people are going to be critical this year.
Yeah, people have to have a little fire lit under their behinds right now because everything is on the line. I mean, everything.
Literally. Yeah.
But when I came into work today, okay, there's a guy, I have a suite mate because I can't afford the whole place. And so,
right.
The whole front part is rented out. Okay, and that guy runs a medical device company, okay, and he's completely dependent on Medicare. He bills Medicare for, like the Libre, the diabetes machine and the seat right there.
Yes.
Okay. So you would think he would care about his government. So I came in today and he's like, hey, happy Friday. Da, 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 da. Like, do you know what happened today? No, I really should read the newspaper, but I don't. Why? What happened? And I said they overturned Roe v. Wade. And he's like, well, aren't they doing gun legislation? And I just looked at Brett. I said, oh, my God, we're so effed. We're so effed.
And there it is. This constitutional republic, if we can keep it, depends on two things. The Constitution itself being upheld, and the republic, meaning the public, participating. And uphill battle. I'm not saying we can't get there, but this is it. 2022 is literally it, because if it goes the wrong way, and little by little, it's just all this right, that right, and we'll all be in our little slave states and doing the bidding of the autocracy, as you so correctly put it.
So, where are you thinking? Canada, Mexico?
Yeah, but maybe Guadalajara below there, because it's got the biggest expat, and it's the most to like what the country was when it began. Do you need a pool boy in Costa Rica? I'm not. People like Mallory Mamaro, thank you for playing her. The voices are there. What the January 6th Select Committee has done, and they ain't even half done yet,
right,
is astonishing. That's the arrowhead. Roe v. Wade and gun violence are the feathers of the arrow, but the spine of the arrow has got to be us. It just is. And, get the passport updated. Fight like heck, but get the passport updated. That's where I'm at.
Have a weekend.
You as well, my darling.
Thank you. Santos in San Francisco.
Hi, Randy.
Hello.
I'm a little nervous, and I know you're short on time.
Okay.
But I called in once before. I'm the caller that my fiance and I at the time had to move from Texas to California in order for me, after Trump canceled TPS for El Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, at this point, we're actually this week in the process of applying for citizenship. After talking to our attorney, we had to have this discussion like earlier this week. Well, what happens when gay marriage gets overturned?
Ah.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, we don't know.
Nobody knows, and it's next in the bin of rights to take away equal protection under law for same-sex couples. I mean, he actually put down on paper not just same-sex marriage, but he put down on paper sexual acts. He wrote Lawrence, the Lawrence decision, which has to do with same-sex sexual things. This is what they're focused on over there at the Supreme Court in Clarence's house.
The thing is, this morning we were watching CNN because we're like, everybody speaks out about this, of course, but they were talking about how the next step in this is states fighting amongst themselves, because states will try to make it illegal for you to travel to their state to get an abortion. If you try to make a phone call, if you try to schedule an appointment, call an out-of-state doctor, all of that.
Can you listen to what we're talking about? And just say to yourself, does this feel like, sound like, smell like anything to do with America? That the right to travel from one state to another might be restricted?
And if you chip away at privacy, which is
But think about what we're talking about here, that they literally...
And then you're not safe in your calls, you're not safe talking to your doctor, you're not safe traveling, then... I don't know what
it's not that you're not safe traveling. It's that you won't be permitted to travel without being a criminal. You'll be fleeing to get an abortion. You'll be fleeing, and they will arrest you for traveling to another state. I mean, what are we talking about here? That we actually just skipped over what we're talking about to talk about the ramifications of what we're talking about. No. Think about what we're saying here. That we now have to consider whether a woman is free to travel from Texas to Montana, or from Texas to California, or from Florida to New York without being arrested. Holy crap, man. Rich in Denver.
Yeah, Randy, I don't think there's anything that I can say other than, this is how Mussolini and Hitler started. They took away abortion. It's going to be Bernard Getz in Subway, Bernard Getz in Madison Square Garden, Bernard Getz in Times Square on New Year's Eve. We are so screwed. And I'm with Brother Dave. I'd like to apply to be a broadcast position with you down in Costa Rica. I'll work with you.
Okay, so here's a dirty little secret. I sold that house. Okay. I had to. I don't have that house anymore. I have no fleeing plan anymore.
I know you were having a lot of maintenance issues with it.
That's right. That's right. And I couldn't.
Well, have a wonderful weekend.
Thank
I'll call
you.
Next weekend.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I have no fleeing plan. I have a passport. I would suggest you all get one. Takes a while, but I have no fleeing plan. So that means we all have to show up and right the wrong through the legislative branch. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin even. Go do it. Register. Be ready.